So guys, I'm still working on my Greatest President in My Lifetime series, but I was doing a little brainstorming and I have a new series alert. I want to do some shorter videos under the title, Things That Make You Go, And there was something I've been wanting to share for a while, and I thought this would be the perfect way to start. So I'm going to jump right into it. Does anyone remember this interview and this comment?
Frank, let me get to it. He hit me. He's not a war hero.
He's a war hero.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Now, most of the population were very offended by this. There was TDS meltdowns, gasping, audible pearl clutching sounds. I even think there was an uptick in patients seeking psychiatric care afterwards. But bringing this back to my main point, how many people questioned why he said that? Most people just became offended because we've all been given the impression that the person he was speaking about was a quote-unquote war hero and spent 5 years in a quote-unquote POW camp. We've never questioned it. As a matter of fact, he became the Republican presidential candidate in 2008, right? But knowing the greatest president in my lifetime, as I've come to know him, there is a method to his madness. The man does not fly by the seat of his pants. There is purposeful thought behind everything he says and everything he does. I'm going to insert this after the fact, but when the greatest president in my lifetime is referring to liking people who were not captured, is he speaking about their physical body or is he speaking about their mind? And is he referring only to military personnel? Things that make you go, Similar to when he walked in front of the Queen. Remember when he took a trip over there to visit the Queen? And the whole world was insulted at how rude he was. How many of you scratched the surface on why he would have done such a thing and how he could have done such a thing? And I'm not going to get into that subject right now, but think about it. But back to, what's-his-face? No name McCain. That's not a phrase I came up with on my own. I just know of some people that refer to him as that, and it's appropriate. I would have named him Pig Vomit, personally, but I'm me and they're them. And I know eventually I'm going to have to actually say his name here in a minute, but I do want to give everybody a heads up. If you're still under the impression this guy, the former senator from Arizona and former presidential candidate, is a good guy and is also a hero and spent 5 years in Vietnam as a quote POW, and you're unwilling to maybe entertain the idea that none of those things are true, this probably isn't the video that you're going to want to listen to. Truth be known, it's not like they haven't covered up other quote-unquote war heroes' backgrounds or military service. This ain't their first rodeo, that's for sure. And I'm sure that's going to come up in a future video. But for the moment, oh my goodness, where do I start? John Sidney McCain III was born 322 BC in his hometown of the fiery pits of hell.
Chill, Granny, chill. You need to take your boots off.
That's the last time I'm going to choke that guy's name out. And to be honest with you, I would rather have voluntary root canal surgery with no Novocaine than go through that guy's childhood and biography, blah. So from now on, henceforth, I dub thee
Pig Vomit.
But anyway, everybody can look up his childhood and see what kind of cotton candy verbiage they used for who he was and so forth. On the down low, he was a spoiled, snot-nosed brat. Lots of temper tantrums when he didn't get his way. And let's go ahead and fast forward. This is all stuff you guys can look up, so I'm not really going to put a whole lot as far as visuals. Pig Vomit attended Annapolis Naval Academy, class of 1958. And if memory serves, he graduated 893rd in a class of 899.
Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. I ain't the sharpest tool in the shed.
But as we all know, because we had it crammed down our throats, Pig Vomit was a pilot. And he crashed in Vietnam. Was a war hero because he remained in a POW camp for 5 years and he was tortured. Stories that change all the time, tortured. And he was tortured and he was he survived. He's a survivor, right? Or are there indicators that may contradict all of that? Well, let's start with the most glaring question. He's a pilot, right? We just went through that. Now, to become a pilot and get your wings, you have to work your ass off. And there are only a select few that they choose to even attend flight school. So please tell me, if they usually only choose the highest achieving students, how is it that a graduate who by all accounts screwed off his whole entire time there, in my personal opinion, was a total douchebag? How is it that somebody who graduated 893rd in a class of 899 was chosen to even attend flight school to begin with?
I want it now! What's the matter with those twats down there?
And if it ain't bad enough that he attended flight school and earned his wings, by all accounts, he freaking sucked as a pilot. And I don't say that to be mean, I say that because it's evidenced by 3 crashes early on in his career. And this first one, I'm going to go off memory. I believe it was off the coast of Corpus Christi in the Gulf of Mexico. And forgive me if this sounds ignorant to the pilots out there. These are all things that everybody can look up if they scratch the surface a little bit. But if memory serves, he was making a turn to head in for a landing, and I believe that there was some type of instrument setting that was too low, and he ended up having to ditch the plane in the water. Now, of course, pig vomit being pig vomit, blamed it on the plane, right? The Navy officials that investigated his incident, right, termed it was pilot error. It wasn't the plane's problem at all. He was flying too low at the wrong setting. So, how much did that plane cost the American taxpayer? Yet another quote-unquote incident was a plane he crashed, I believe it was in Virginia. And again, if memory serves, don't quote me on this because you guys can look this up. He had taken a plane to fly to another state to go to a football game, some shit like that. Like it was his own personal vehicle. And then upon return into, if I'm not mistaken, Virginia, something happened there too and he ended up crashing that plane. Obviously survived. But who gave him permission to take a plane to head to another state for a football game?
The third plane he crashed in training was his dad would let him take these fighter jets for like personal weekend joyrides to go see girls at sporting events in other states.
Hello. And also, if memory serves, I could be wrong about this. I do remember reading or hearing something about him having Christmas gifts for his family inside the plane. Okay. So he was using United States government property for his own personal transportation. Sounds familiar. And one of the grossest incidents, I believe it was in 1965, not 100% sure. He was flying a plane too low. This is over Spain. And he somehow clipped some electrical wires, knocking out all the power for blocks. Somewhere in Spain. Knocked out all the power. They had a blackout, the whole 9. And apparently, pig vomit returned back to the aircraft carrier with the dangling electrical wires still stuck to his plane.
Well, we don't have any lights, but now we know the speed of stupid.
Brainiac. Jeez. So that caused a headache and a nightmare for the Spanish people. I hope you guys caught my correction. I got Spain and Virginia mixed up. Spain was 1961, Virginia 1965. Now, see, the irony of all of this is I shouldn't have to correct the years of multiple crashes. Mind you, all of them were a direct result of incompetency, stupidity, or just the overwhelming desire to be a dick and screw off while flying a multi-million-dollar piece of machinery owned by the United States government with no thought of the safety and well-being of the citizens on the ground, etc., etc. This actually brings me to my next question, and I'm not sure the preference between being referred to as an aviator or a pilot, but I want to ask all branches of the government, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Army, any pilot out there, how many individuals do you know of that wouldn't have lost their wings after the very first incident? How was he even permitted to fly after that? I mean, causing that blackout in Spain caused an international incident. How many pilots do you know of that would have kept their wings after the first crash, after having to ditch the first plane in the water? How was he permitted to remain in the air? There you go. Things that make you go, And really, this is an easy answer. John Sidney McCain III is the third. Who were the first two? Well, Daddy was an active 4-star admiral at the time that pig vomit served in the Navy. And then Granddaddy, John Sidney McCain I, he was also a very famous 4-star admiral in the Navy. These two were treated like royalty. peculiar. But I wonder if his dad resented the fact that he had to spend the remainder of his service with a mop in his hand, cleaning up after all the messes his kid made. The original poop deck pappy. Now see, if you know me in my personal life, I'm not big on rumors. I don't do gossip, but I'm going to make a slight exception in this case, because I had heard a rumor that old Hildebeest had the body odor of a decaying carcass laying on the side of the road. And it turns out that rumor was real. Her own staff outed her as somebody who smelled like urine and cabbage farts and suggested that maybe she take a shower every once in a while. So thank you, WikiLeaks. But here's where I'm going to share a rumor with y'all. Now, by all accounts, the Hildebeest is the rudest, nastiest, most stuck-up, elitist, snot-nosed meat sack walking around the face of the earth. And on the low, she's actually capable of evil beyond the wildest imagination of the public. That'll become clear in the future if you haven't learned that already. But rumor has it, she was only scared of one person. Guess who that person was? You guessed it, old Picatus Vomitus himself. And like I said, normally I don't do rumors or gossip or anything like that, but you all already know why I can't stand the Hildebeest.
Because she's a fat, hairy bitch.
And allow me, if you will, just really briefly, I want to read just the intro to an article titled, "John McCain is no war hero. He's a traitor." And just as a little FYI also, I'm almost glad he ran for president because the media hated his guts and dug up every last skeleton this bitch had. So they've done a lot of the legwork already. Thank you, mainstream media. Never fails. Y'all didn't start loving him until he started hating Donald Trump and was front and center trying to protect the machine. Anywho, so this article, John McCain is no war hero. He's a traitor. For decades, John McCain has been touted as a war hero and a patriot, an image he has carefully crafted. But behind the facade lies the true nature of John McCain, which is a far cry from what we've all been told about the man. He's an arrogant, incompetent, spoiled military brat that could care less about anyone but himself. It's the hubris that got him captured in Vietnam as a prisoner of war. I really did want to keep these between 5 and 10 minutes, and we're already over that, guys. It appears that I underestimated how long it would take to go through each and every one of Pig Vomit's fuck-ups. So I'm going to have to cut this one short and do it in 2 parts. I know I always do that to everybody, but it really is best to kind of digest all of this in small pieces. We haven't even gotten to the USS Forrestal and the official narrative versus reality, his POW story versus reality, why his nickname was Songbird McCain, why his quote-unquote captors called him the Prince, the Keating 5 scandal, the POW MIA committee, his secret trips to Syria, his secret trip to the Ukraine in December of 2016, after the greatest president in my lifetime was elected and before his inauguration. I think we covered that in the 3rd video I did. Why he hates Russia and Vladimir Putin with such a passion. How he shafted the American people when he denied a bill he had actually run on supporting during his campaign in 2008. And we're going to do a little short dive into an unverified account of what Pig Vomit's accommodations were really like in Vietnam. Just so I don't leave you hanging, I want to strongly encourage everyone to be mindful of your own snap judgments and or emotional reactions to a set of circumstances, whether it's an occurrence in your everyday life or a picture, a video, an audio, something someone says, etc., etc. Believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. Research it, analyze it, break it down, investigate it. Right now, determining what's real and what's fake is more important than you even realize. It's crucial, actually. And I know all of this. I've become aware of all these things. And I still struggle with it. I still catch myself allowing things to seep into my mind. But we've all been conditioned, programmed, whatever you want to call it, to react in that way. When our minds are in an emotional state, we are easy to manipulate. It blinds us from being able to notice details that would broaden our perspective on pretty much any situation. And quite unfortunately, we all, individually and collectively as a people, have suffered because of this. And so when I'm highlighting this interview with the greatest president in my lifetime, and he said that, it was a controversial statement at the time, probably still is for many people, and not many people scratched the surface to try and understand, even if they didn't agree with it, to try and understand why he would say that to begin with. Was it to be mean, or was it to bring to the attention of the American people that this person has been presented as one thing and they are the exact opposite? We were all operating under the assumption that this man was some kind of a warrior, hero, patriot, whatever you want to call him. And he was not. Not one single thing that guy did benefited the American people. If anything, he was purposefully working against the American people to destroy them. And this little motherfucker did a lot of damage, more so than people even realize. And so when we're easily disarmed by someone saying they're a patriot, a MAGA patriot, a Republican, a Christian, a veteran, a POW, a war hero, whatever, if it somehow gives us the warm and fuzzies, we're immediately disarmed. And we don't suspect that that person would ever do anything to harm us. Right? But I'm telling you right now that there are people who have you convinced that you need to be in your bedroom making the bed all nice and pretty. Well, they're burning your house down. And I don't say this to scare anyone, because when you know the real, there's nothing to be scared of. But it's high time that we all start searching for the real, because I see a lot of people talking about real, recognize real, or I'm not sure if that's the phrase or not, but there are the real, there are the authentic, there are the soulful, and my friends, there are the fakers and the duplicators and the soulless that have done quite a fine job of presenting themselves as the real, because they disarm us with words and circumstances, etc., etc., etc. So I'm going to sign off now because I talk too much. And now that I've bent your ear for the last 18 hours or however long this is, I'm going to go yap at my husband. I'm sure he just can't wait. Have a great weekend, guys.